I look at the left curve assets very much like that. I think the real stuff becomes like, that's the inception point where someone comes in and says, oh, I bought tits or booty or Doge or, whatever it is, it doesn't make a difference. They just come in through that. And they may stay there for a long period of time. They may not. But along the way, they may discover like greater things like governance, for example, and like the different structures of governance.
Because you just touched on it, because often they don't know if they want to stay in the space, but not just that, they don't know where their deeper meaning could lie, where their fulfillment could lie, how this might become a career. And they have to discover that through kind of messing around maybe with meme coins, and then they find some kind of deeper meaning in the industry.
Welcome to the ATX DAO Podcast, the hub for exploring the forefront of blockchain technology in Austin's Web3 community. We connect you with innovators within ATX DAO and beyond as we venture into the world of decentralized technology. So crack open a beer and join us for a front row seat to learn about the innovations and trends shaping our digital future. This is the ATX DAO Podcast.
Well, welcome everyone to the ATX DAO Podcast. We are excited to have some returning guests and a new one. So we have Ian and Brian from Push DAO, and then of course we have Ash and me as well. We're both in person today, which is nice.
It is kind of refreshing.
I know, you've been like traveling the world. I guess all of y'all have, but
just trying to like outsource stupidity, really. Not only on chain but off chain.
Yep, for sure. Well, welcome guys. Glad to have you with us.
Great to be here. Thank you, and glad to have 60 here with me this time.
Absolutely.
Yep. Nice to finally meet you guys as well. Ian has spoken highly of you.
But yeah, I'm glad he's saying good things about us. That's always good. So 60, good to have you on, man. So this is your first time on the show. Do you want to kind of just share a little bit about kind of your background, some of the stuff that you're working on, that kind of thing, and then we'll kind of go into that?
Yeah, I've been here for like I think it's my 4th year now. I joined this space like all of you degenerates to make money, and then I discovered the tech and all the cool things that come with decentralized technology, DAOs, super into governance. That's what I've been into since I joined the space, decentralized governance. As you guys know, it's still pretty not perfect. We still live in a plutocracy. Whoever has the most money gets the most say, blah, 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 that type of thing. So yeah, on a journey to sort of fix that or find out, what the best solution is, apart from capitalism. Hopefully we find it. And I've been with Push for the better part of this year. It's been an amazing year. We started Push DAO. Well, there was a Push DAO, but we sort of brought life back to it sometime in June. So me and Ian on this thing called the DAO Council, which is basically like council of 5 people who decides the strategic day-to-day of the DAO, just so it's not like 100 different people saying do this, do that, just give it, push the DAO in the right direction. So yeah, that's what I've been up to. I do almost everything in the DAO. Like one day I'm an accountant, the next day I'm hosting like governance calls. The next week I'm at a conference, so I'm a generalist in general, and happy to be here and excited to hopefully come back.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad to have you, and definitely a few things that you just mentioned I want to dig into. But before we do that, Ian, I wanted to, you've been on the show before, but just in case listeners haven't heard from you in the past, you want to just share a little bit about kind of you and kind of what you're working on with Push DAO?
Yeah, I'm happy to be back. I'm an 8-year veteran of crypto now. That's 1,000 years in real people lifetimes. But I've gone from being a teacher to a writer to a marketer to a bunch of different things to a DAOist, like all things DAO, where I am now. And every piece of the journey has taught me a little something. And I guess if you're here long enough, like I've been, I can't think of doing anything else. I'm just a crypto person through and through. Good, bad, and in between.
Very cool. Awesome. Well, glad to have you back, man. So always a pleasure chatting with you. Well, cool guys. Well, so 60, you mentioned a couple of things just related to DAO governance. I thought that would be an interesting one to kind of start off with. So as you know, so we're a DAO as well. So we're with ATX DAO, and governance is always a thing that we kind of work through as well. So do you want to kind of talk maybe just a little bit about like what kind of led y'all to the structure that you have with Push, with the governance, with the council, and just kind of how that's kind of helped the DAO? Because I think sometimes people think of a DAO and they think, okay, well, it needs to be just totally decentralized, total chaos, but sometimes that's not always great as well. So just would love y'all's perspective on kind of what's worked for y'all in that space.
I can riff on like a previous experience in a previous DAO, and then like I'll let Ian like sort of continue as to where we are today. But I used to be part of like the Index Group DAO. I don't know if you guys know about it, but it was all fun times in the beginning. Everyone is contributing, everyone has a role, blah blah blah. Until you need to make like a huge strategic decision, and then it's like, or you need to like work with a partner, or like somebody from TradFi or from Web2 comes along, and they're like, who the fuck do I talk to get anything done here? So it's like, that's obviously caused, some problems, just not having like clear leadership or like people who step up to take responsibility or to, sort of, be the bridge between like Web3. Like decentralized is fun, but it's like it's like the thing I like to tell people, like in Web3, when you send like your money to the wrong address, that's bye-bye, good riddance, but with a bank or something, if you make a mistake, you can just go to the nearest branch the next morning, tell them what happened, and like 3 to 5 business days they fix it. So sort of like same thing with DAOs. We sort of need to bridge. It's nice being decentralized, but there has to be like sort of a bridge where like there is not exactly like a dictator or like a CEO, but at least a group of people who can take responsibility and who have the DAO's best interest at the end of the day, and not just a bunch, not just like 100 extractive people who are pulling on 100 different directions, and then like at the end of the day nothing gets done. And Ian can sort of continue into how that made sense for Push DAO.
No, that in and of itself is the perfect transition to this point, because where we are now is I saw all of that happening in many different DAOs, just as 60 described it. And I boiled down the key areas that needed to be fixed first to make Push DAO really be a DAO and then run efficiently. So number one was something we hinted at already, that there needed to be delegates or some kind of council running things on a day-to-day basis. The swarm works at certain stages and with certain use cases, but with an infrastructure DAO or something that's trying to lead to a similar place like that. So using the example of Compound, Aave, Uniswap, or Push, which is sort of leading towards something more like that. It needs to be a bit more controlled, aka there needs to be progressive decentralization. So we can have full decentralization, and we plan on that, but it's step by step and piece by piece on a very intentional plan, which I think, we got into in the last episode. But to reiterate, then what I did was I spoke to people in the community when I got there with the foundation and put myself into the DAO to see what was happening. I figured out who was the most active in the community along the lines of when and where and how much they posted, but also in what they posted and whether that was like a viable initiative or something real that could happen for the DAO, and a lot of related things. And that brought me to the people that I thought could be the council. We had a few initial meetings. Those people, including 60, became the council. And we'll get more into this, but to pause there, everything else came after that. My key point being, no matter what your DAO is, if something's not working in the early days, the answer is probably that you don't have the right kind of governance structure there for whatever the key use case for the DAO is. So I said infrastructure, but you'd need something different for charitable DAO, a social impact DAO, and you need something entirely different for a meme coin DAO, that could probably be more like a swarm, because meme coins are just about everybody and all the holders, at least ideally.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Like to make that analysis, it's like I feel like it's really funny. Me and my co-founder were thinking about this a little today about like communication and like strategy, right? And like where do you want to go, right? So like we formed this vehicle to do this good, and in the beginning, everyone's contributing, like you said, much like the index coup scenario. I felt like before you're going to transition over to Ian, I was like, bro, he's going to give us like a hatchet story of like what the fuck happened there. It's going to be. I'm like, we might have to X this out now. but we were talking about this and we were thinking about like, okay, so we have this plan and this is the direction that we're going, but communicating that, then assigning roles, and then playing that role that leads back to that plan is kind of like, in a weird way, just organizing ourselves and putting like governance between each of these bodies, right? It's kind of funny that we're actually having this podcast today, and we had this conversation like literally this morning to understand like how do we break down teams, how do we create this direction, and I think that looking at DAO structures, it's very interesting to see that, right? Because it's so easy to fuck up communication and then organization. Like it's one of the easiest things to do. Because you're just like, oh, everyone's here for the vibes. And like you said, whether it's like meme coins or it's like something like serious, it's like, we're all here for the vibes, but like, we kind of have to know which direction we're going. We're going to have to organize this shit, you know?
Exactly. A gradient scale, I completely agree with you. A gradient scale based on the use case and the people involved in the DAO. There's different levels of decentralization at different times, and you really have to understand, like we were just talking about, where your type of DAO should be on the gradient in terms of like, does it need more control structures in place or does it need less for starters?
Yeah, and doubly important, like if you have a treasury, you know, because one of the problems DAOs run into, like I'll show up and I'll be like, hey guys, I'll post memes on Twitter every day, and I'll get 6 figures for that. Pass it through governance.
Right.
Woo, let's go. Ian shows up.
That is a real, for people that don't know what Brian just said, that's a real example. I've actually seen that happen in some DAOs where someone just kind of says that and then suddenly they're making like 100K plus a year because there's like no real application process or anything like that, and it's burning a lot of the treasury.
It's wild.
Head of meme design, whatever.
Why the fuck am I actually trying to build dumb shit? I should just take that fucking job. Tell me where that job is, bro.
I heard it through the grapevine that some of the bigger DAOs, don't know how true this is, maybe someone can comment when this is posted, are paying people way more than 100K to just be delegators.
Insane.
That's wild.
Yeah. The deeper you dig through governance forms, the more interesting stuff you find.
I mean, it's kind of funny that we're also having this conversation like right after the election too. I thought you were going to open with like, okay, bro, who did you vote for?
Right.
I'm like, well, that's going to be nice. Like,
Right.
But
I stay out of politics except in one area, which you already mentioned, which is I'm glad we have a better political sphere for crypto, or so it seems. That is something, but it's also dangerous to cherry pick issues because then the politician involved might be wrong on something that actually really matters, even if they're right on crypto.
Yeah, it's really interesting because like I think that there are these implications, like you said, around this one specific like domain expertise knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or they don't even have domain expertise; they just like love the direction of this thing. But then everything else is problematic, and then like there's other effects that might affect. If you take it into a presidential election, like societal effects outside of like industry effects, right? And I feel like that's also extremely relatable to this DAO mechanic, where it's like, oh, they might be perfect in this position for just this one thing, but everything else, it's like, I don't know if you should be our chief legal officer too, bro.
Right.
I mean, we wrote this fucking contract on it with crayons and graphics.
But what you're bringing up matters for another reason. There's another connection there, just in the fact that I do believe DAOs are like the next stage for politics, and you're already seeing that. There's a lot of just like politicians and that type of people involved in DAOs. That's not always a bad thing, but it brings to light more the need that I was just talking about having a lot of transparent processes and structures from day one so you don't run into worse and worse problems.
Yeah.
Um,
One thing I was actually, and I'm actually interested in hearing more about from people is regulation, right? Obviously, like there's been like this, the SEC has been like Gary Gensler. We all hate him. Nobody likes him. Blah blah blah. But
Yeah.
at the same time, we operate in one of the scammiest industries, that have ever existed, right? I can,
Let's
I
just say
can,
it.
yeah, I can literally go set up a token, pretend, act like I'm gonna launch some revolutionary, layer two, whatever, and just like rug everyone. So yeah, really curious, like, is overregulation like necessity, or do we just let founders go wild and do whatever
To
they
me,
wish?
Yeah.
60 and I just talked about this recently. To me, the answer, that's the whole problem, is somewhere in the middle. For example, as we were talking about, the last administration wasn't really doing things right at all with crypto. Will the current one do everything right? I don't think so. I think the answer is in the middle, and both are the wrong extreme in different ways.
Yeah. So I was actually just talking to somebody about this Tuesday. We had our DAO meeting on Tuesday. And the thing that I think is just wild about, well, first of all, I mean, if Trump does what he promised, Gary Gensler's gone. It's the day that Trump comes into office. But the thing that I think is really frustrating about just the way regulation happens is it seems to be applied. They say that it's because it's protecting consumers, but they literally only go after the people that are not doing bad things. So like stoner cats, like why did stoner cats need to get taken down?
I honestly
They're
don't
making
know.
a cartoon and they're selling a ticket to watch the cartoon, and yes, maybe sharing some of the profits. So yes, technically it could have been a security, but like, okay, they're going after them, but they're not going to go after like the scammers that you're just talking about that create a honeypot meme coin that just takes everyone's money and just does bad things. They don't go after those folks, which is just a frustrating thing.
I think if they just rebranded to medicinal marijuana cats, like a scheduled class drug, I think they would have been fine, personally. Okay. But I do agree. It is kind of like... Yes, it's messaging. That's what it is. It's communication, guys. We got to follow the FDA guidelines. Well, who knows? Our boy RFK might be fucking all that shit up too.
Right.
Reschedule
But that brings up
everything.
another good point, that even with the new administration, it's doubly a good idea to have the right legal advice when you're launching something.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think it did feel like there was uneven enforcement, right? And there was no clear guidelines on, like, guys, this is a red fucking line. You cannot cross this line. And if so, like, who's in charge, right? Like, going to the DAO governance question, like you mentioned with Index Group. They're like, a suit comes along and is like, hey, I want to talk to someone in charge. And you're like, I don't know, that guy's in fucking charge, like, I guess. And that guy's pointing to the janitor, and they're like, no, that thing doesn't even fucking work here, bro.
Yeah.
Like, this kind of weird thing happens. Yeah, exactly.
Let's be real. There's a lot of great things about DAOs, but in a lot of cases, one thing we can do better is when people like that come in, or a big institution comes in, they'll look at our governance forums and be like, what the hell is even going on here? How do I even understand who I go to? What's the funnel for me, like making a partnership deal? Who approves it and why? What's their background?
Yeah, I think with the new administration, like, so apparently I heard, like, the guy who's, like, leading the transition team is this guy named Howard Lutnick. Do you know who that guy is? Have you heard of him?
It rings like a vague bell, but go ahead, because not more than that in my case.
I don't know.
Oh, this guy's, like, fucking legendary, dude. Like, so he ran this huge firm called Cantor Fitzgerald. Okay, it's like a TradFi, like, kind of firm,
Yep.
like
Mhm.
PE. And the guy's story is, like, insane. Like, so he works in the World Trade Center. Like, and 9/11, he has 900 employees working in the fucking Trade Center. 658 of them end up dying, literally, when the tower hits, including his brother. Okay? This guy literally is like, okay, well, now 3/4 of my entire team is basically gone, including my own brother. Like, he has to cut paychecks and salaries for these people, pays out death benefits, and over like a period of 5 or 6 years, he makes $180 million and then gives it to the fucking families. Like, that's fucking legendary.
Yeah.
Like, I I mean, he could have done a lot of bad shit, but like that thing is like legendary in my book. Like, who does that, right? Like, and to come back from that. So this guy is apparently one of the people leading the transition team for the current administration, and apparently he's very bullish digital assets. So I'm hoping that, like, you know, we kind of get a vibe and a culture fit where it's like, guys, like, if we're going to do this, we need to take it kind of seriously. Like, even if meme coins as an asset class, that is a fucking, like, hilarious asset class, right? It's kind of like, we have guidelines that says, just don't color outside of this fucking box, bro, and you're good. You know, just do everything else. You know,
all we need is exactly
coins,
that. That's the definition of what we've needed this whole time. You're right. Just some kind of box, some kind of guidelines, because they keep saying, well, you're not following the guidelines, but it's a fair criticism. What even are the guidelines?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if Gensler is looking for a new job, we are looking for a new head of PR. So, Gensler, if you're watching this cast, come holler at me, baby.
I've done PR for several years as well. I actually like doing PR.
Oh, nice. There you go.
Well, there you go. Well, I mean, you're competing with Gensler, but besides, I mean, if you're coming over, I gotta get 60 with me too, bro.
60's a legend. He was just this year he was at a conference in Zanzibar that Vitalik showed up to.
Vitalik shows up everywhere, bro. He's
Now he's a legend.
He'll show up at my house for Christmas if he hears we're running validators or something. He'll be like, oh, I'll be there, guys.
I mean, who knows? Maybe we all know who Satoshi is. Just kidding.
But,
Right.
I'm honestly like a bit concerned. Like, maybe we'll miss Gensler in like 3 years. Now that, you know, the president and his right-hand man are calling government agencies, you know, after meme coins. You know, like
That's true.
how stupid are things gonna get, you know?
I'm going to be straight up because I've told people this publicly. Stupid like this, but also stupid like this.
And Coinbase is just going crazy now. Coinbase is just listing, like, they're just, we're just gonna list every meme coin, you know? It's like, fuck it. It's like, who's gonna come after us now? You know, buy Gensler.
Right.
Well,
That was interesting. The other day, I hadn't seen them do that in years at least. They posted, Paul Grewal, the legal officer, posted something like, we're putting WIF on Coinbase in a few hours, pre-announcing it.
I'm still waiting on them to put the number one meme coin on Avalanche. Cocky New is not on Coinbase yet.
Shout out to my close friend Sean, because he just joined the Avalanche team.
Oh, nice.
Oh, nice.
Very cool. What's he doing?
Product marketing for some of their things at Ava Labs and related entities.
Oh, sweet. Very cool.
I mean, Luke's goal is to get cock on base. Like, I mean, once he's on base with his cock, I think he's happy. But I think it's kind of a good thing, right? In a weird way of putting it out there. Like, I think that the other way of thinking about this is like maybe, like, so in the previous administration, there was excessive litigation and uncertainty around the idea of like how we should regulate ourselves, right? But ultimately, the other way to think about this is that if everything operates in a spectrum, maybe capitalism and retail users will also define exactly what is kosher and not kosher, right? Like, at some point, like, if you're just like launching L2s that are like never fucking gonna work, or it's fugazi tech, people are gonna be like, this guy's fucking full of shit. Like, I don't want to work with this guy.
There's a lot of truth to that. For example, there will be a bigger element of the market, as you're saying, cutting some of those things out naturally. That will happen eventually.
Yeah, so like I wonder about this. Like, for example, meme coins is an asset class, right? Like, you know, we are building something on Doge. We've already shipped it. We're shipping improvements, but I'm not going to pump it over here or whatever. Like, you know, but Gensler, if you're still looking for that job, baby, you know, you make sure, okay, I'm going to get you a base ass job, okay, motherfucker. Like, but
You have no idea how OG I am. I may have been involved with Doge from day one.
yeah, exactly. So, like, I mean, but like when I think about these things, right, I'm like, there are a bunch of tokens that have zero utility, zero kind of case. It's purely momentum traded. It's purely community advised, right? And that's kind of, I think, largely understandable by a Web3 novice or a Web3 expert, right? Like a veteran, right? because there's no utility around them. There may be no governance around them. There's no structure about their inception, where they're going. And I think kind of some people realize that. And then I think that when I look at meme coins, I feel like in a weird way, it's like there's increased amounts of transparency because they know it's full of shit. Like it's like if someone comes up and tells you like, "Hey, I'm an idiot," and at least they're led with honesty, right? But if someone comes and tells you that like, "Hey, I'm going to build this next new fucking L3, it's going to be wild, this is all the shit it's going to do," and doesn't deliver anything about it, like I would say there's a problem there. Right. I think the markets will regulate this by and large, in my opinion.
Generally, I am a proponent of that in the sense that, like I said, people are we're euphoric right now, and we deserve to be. But people will realize that even in a year, a lot of this will consolidate compared to what it is now. It's just natural. It's not a bad thing. Yeah. We're at like a proliferation period right now, and then there has to be a consolidation.
Yeah, and for the first time in history, we're gonna have to live with like complete idiots who made money off of like, you know, dick butt Shiba eating.
No, but in all seriousness, shout out to my boy Stefan who tried to get me in on crypto dick butts when they were low. I'm sorry I didn't get it, man. You were right.
I know. We all have that person. A buddy of mine, I went to a barbecue at his place. He's got like Bitcoin validators upstairs, like back when you could do it in your own like home with like GPUs and stuff. And I just thought it was silly. Yeah, that would have been amazing if I would have gotten in at that point. I think it was like 10 cents.
I remember being in LA at the height of the NFT craze, and it doesn't matter where you were at that point, especially in a city like that. Like I was at a hotel near the airport, and my girlfriend and I were like using the pool, and the guy next to us starts talking about crypto. And he had no idea I was in crypto or she was in crypto. He just starts talking about it. And, he's saying, my son and I retired this year. And I was like, what do you mean? How old is your son? 16. Wow. We both retired because we had 4 Bored Apes and we sold some of them.
Dang.
Life-changing money, man.
You'll just meet 18-year-old asshole who bought their IP.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I think but that's always been the case, right? And this is where I'm always being like, okay, so we're so, right. Yeah, I mean, dude, like you could have been an 18-year-old asshole who like his parents gave like $1,000 of money to, and you could have bought Apple at the right time. Yeah. And then look at where you got to, or you bought, Microsoft, and like you just kept it for a while, and like look at where you got to.
My grandpa just bought a bunch of something like AT&T, and he held it for long enough, and that did pretty well.
Yeah, I think that the real problem here is like a real question is like, as a culture, what is the mindset that you get when you come upon a large amount of wealth really quickly, right? And it's just like, I guess it's kind of like a metaphorical question, or it's like a philosophical question, even including the governance thing, right? It's like you think about like incentivized governance, or you think about like, I had more money so I can just buy more votes basically to do this, right? And I think it really hits down to that kind of question of culture of like, what do you want your community to be, and like, what do you really want it to happen? I just think like in certain things like this, like no matter the best practices we may put forth, I think that as a society, like we're in this weird phase where it's like sums of money can just basically do all the talking for people, right?
But you said another good point already, which is that doesn't mean it all has to be bad. If you have a plan from day one, if you have a greater vision that from day one people are aligned on beyond the money, you can actually make even a meme coin both potentially make people money and make impact at the same time, as long as you architect it correctly. But that's tricky because you kind of have to be like good at organizational psych, good at general strategy, and 5 or 6 other things.
Yeah, and I know you guys have probably listened to Murad by now.
Oh yeah.
Even though I think he's a self-serving asshole who just wants to pump his bags enough so he can dump on everyone. But obviously, you have to act like you're trying to help people. Memes are for the betterment of mankind, blah, blah, blah. all these things. He does. I do agree with him on some stuff. Obviously, like not everybody knows about cryptography or like all these, complicated terms.
As simple as, like 60 was saying earlier, as simple as what happens when I send my funds to the wrong place. We take that for granted being in crypto for a while, but it's not actually easy for people to understand things like, why can't I get my coins back if I send it to a smart contract? And I don't blame them. It's like just something we're used to, so we don't see it that way.
Or like, you come in and like nerds like us are talking about like Monad, the cross-chain hyperscaling, blah, 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 whatever the latest buzzword is, like, restaking, for restake, you can now restake your restaked ETH, and like get more rewards. Like most people come in here like, what the hell are these nerds talking about? And, there's one guy with a colorful PFP and he's just like, you can retire your bloodline if you buy SPX 69,000. Like, that just makes sense.
I'm just waiting for Nigerian Prince coin 6969 is going to the moon, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just a narrative. It's just a narrative people can easily get behind. It's like, I'll
Exactly
be honest. My favorite meme coin right now is called Tits, and it's literally just that. It's like the ticker is the whole meme coin is just we love tits. That's it. And like,
I thought he was gonna say he's like, my favorite meme coin's tits, and he's like, and I'm an ass guy. And I was gonna
so I got
that's conviction.
I got a token for you. So my buddy 1/3 Nerd just launched a token called Booty on Avalanche. So that can be for you. So shout out to 1/3 Nerd for your token.
Believe it.
I remember when meme coins were just called altcoins.
Right.
Yeah, right. It's kind of funny. Like talking to a bunch of Bitcoin bros, like it is really funny. It's not Bitcoin is not the canonical version of truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
True.
it's like there are certain things because of the technology stacks. When we're looking deeper, the reality is just like governance works. Like, how the fuck do you run governance on Bitcoin? Unless you're basically controlling all the miners, and there's a miner summit, and then they basically decide what the fuck happens.
However, on the flip side, people often don't realize this. Bitcoin was the first example of a DAO, even though you could argue how much of a DAO it is. It was the first example in practice in that it's a decentralized system of money.
Yeah, that's fair. I'll give him that. Yeah, for sure. But like the point I just think like it's this weird thing where it's like when we come to these points of like, I don't think. Okay, so I have a kid, right? So when I go to school, like literally after this, I have to go pick her up, and I ask her, I'm like, hey, what did you do at school today? What did you eat? And, like, it's kind of funny, like now pretending to be an adult, like you forget about all the school shit that you did when you were a kid, right? Where they say, oh, you learn through play, right? You learn and talk about dumb stuff, you do artwork, and then basically you're learning letters, you're learning numbers, and it's like, hey, can you take this and that? I think that I look at the left curve assets very much like that. I think the real stuff becomes like, that's the inception point, where someone comes in and says, oh, I bought tits, or booty, or Doge, or whatever it is, it doesn't make a difference. They just come in through that. Mm-hmm. And they may stay there for a long period of time. They may not. But along the way, they may discover like greater things like governance, for example, and like the different structures of governance.
Because you just touched on it, because often they don't know if they want to stay in the space, but not just that, they don't know where their deeper meaning could lie, where their fulfillment could lie, how this might become a career. And they have to discover that through kind of messing around maybe with meme coins, and then they find some kind of deeper meaning in the industry. I've seen that happen a lot, actually.
That actually happened with me. I got into all of this through a NFT game called Chicken. That was my very first thing that I did. And there's a whole, I learned about DeFi through it. So you have to do LP farming in order to get certain other tokens. And so I learned all of that playing a game, and I was like, oh, this is actually really great. And that's when I, went in the deep end and learned all of it for real. But that's exactly how it happens.
The meme coin craze has helped me. I'm a call me ETH Maxi, so I don't usually bother to use any other chain but ETH and then its layer twos. But yeah, this meme coin craze got me on Solana, and then made me realize, oh, Solana is actually better than ETH in some ways. Obviously, like their block explorers are like complete shit, and but yeah, other aspects of the chain are like super user friendly, super fast. So yeah, just it the meme coin craze sort of helped me. Even Sway, like I know Ian talked about Sway earlier, but yeah, I actually went out, bridged to Sway, and used that ecosystem just so I can buy meme coins. So I was using the exchanges on Sway and like all these things, So that's part of it. And if any of you guys know how to actually buy Doge, because I have not been able to figure out how to do that.
This is your guy. He's got an exchange on Doge.
We're the first dummies to ship an AMM on Dogecoin L1.
Nice. Yeah, I've been trying to figure out for the past week, how do I actually buy Doge on chain?
Well, also the lords and ladies over at the official Doge meme and Doge DAO are great people too. Doge matters to a horde of people now. It's like the OG meme of crypto now, so it's quite the inroads still.
Yeah, I honestly think that so the people of the foundation are great. The community itself is great, right? I'll send you a DM about like kind of like what we're shipping and like why it's interesting. In fact, we actually had a chance like with Ian to talk about like, whoa, dude, what if we can do some push shit on this? And there's like some crazy crayon graph paper stuff that we built out like that it'd be cool to chat about after, because there's a lot of shit that's... Yes, exactly. And there's a lot of shit that we're shipping this week, including like the only plug that I'll do is that we dropped an SDK this week, so you can basically build transactions on chain and literally push it out on the L1 itself. So if you're another builder wanting to build any kind of other primitive similar to like that on ETH or Solana, you can leverage that to do that. In fact, I'm trying to get Luke to be like, bro, just come fucking build on Dogecoin L1, bro. Like, it'd be hilarious.
Right.
It's just wild. But I think that the real thing that I'm noticing now is that like it's really weird. So this is kind of like a meta from the last cycle that's still there. It was in the bear cycle and now here is that it was like incentivized liquidity provisioning, incentivized voting, and all this stuff, right? And it's like, bro, it's like you have to give me a minimum 30% APY for me to come on there and for me to provide my liquidity to you, bro. I'm like, that's fucking weird. It felt like very, not offense to anyone who did Greek life, but like it felt very Greek life. Like I have to pay to like have friends. Like that's fucking weird. Not to touch your penis awkwardly.
No,
like,
I know
weird.
What you mean in the toxic sense, and that does exist. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, dude, like I think that one of the cool things that that it does with the chains and like top chain and everything else that's there, is that like I think that it's easier to red pill someone, just like how 60 was talking about. Hey, I came to Sway and then I wanted to just go check out stuff in there. I think it's easier to red pill someone with like something that's hilarious in like the community and the culture, more so than that of like, oh, here's an extra APY of like 3 points, and it's like I'm not gonna move because of that, bro.
It totally is. The only reason I even got anything on Cardano is because I wanted to get some snack.
Yeah.
And so it's the same thing.
Oh, you've actually used Cardano? Nice. That
I had some back in the day.
Yeah, nice.
Same. For like a few days, and then I realized, not.
I got lucky. I had it at that like initial pump. I forgot how long ago that was, 2 or 3 years or more ago now, where it initially pumped like crazy and then like stopped forever. But anyway, I flipped it to ETH for sure.
And Ian is like a crypto millionaire. He's been here for like 8 years. He's bought every pump. He's dumped on everyone.
There's a lot that I wish happened in terms of like plays that I missed, but I can't complain being around as long as I've had. I've played the game honestly, actually, and I went from having a lot of people don't know this about me, but in 2016 I had like no money. I lived in like a closet size apartment. We were happy. I mean, it was me and my girlfriend like going to school, going to our masters and stuff. But crypto is the reason I built anything as far as a career and a life.
Penthouse, baby, penthouse. Use it up, penthouse.
The molecule is up for grabs, bro.
Now you
I
have two
believe one
girlfriends.
thing I believe in all seriousness is that it can never, it's just toxic to chase money forever. You have to have a goal in mind. And for me, I'm even happy now where I am, which is like middle class average, something like that. But that makes me happy knowing that I've come that far in 8 years from like a impoverished student, kind of like the PhD stereotype of like, I'm in a PhD, but I also have no money at all, to where I am now. I mean, it's all about perspective. And I do think it's good to say in a bull market like this, have a greater goal than just unlimited sum of money and set it somehow to a sum of money. You're like, I'm comfortable when this happens.
Yeah, and I've seen some pretty sad stuff in my time here. Like, I've been on Discord groups like these obviously like in the last bull market there were just projects that were just like Ponzi's, like you buy the token, blah blah blah, it goes up, it's like the Ponzi type of thing. But they would have like Discords where they would have like confessionals, like channels where people are like, I come from a very impoverished country, blah blah blah. It's like I literally put my entire life savings into this project. I can't wait to finally make it, move out, blah blah blah. And like, it's so sad because like, bro, it's so obviously a Ponzi. It's so obviously
we can't blame
a Ponzi.
them because it's not exactly, but it's not just that. We can't blame them, and that's why it's sad. Because I think about that, like when I started, I was not impoverished, but I didn't have a lot of money at all, like I was saying, and I felt desperate at times during, for example, the 2017 ICO season, and I got real close to putting way too much money on ICOs several times. I'm just lucky I didn't.
Yeah,
It's
when I
always
joined
good.
the space, it was Lambo. It's like just
When Lambo.
yeah. You haven't made it until you have a Lamborghini. And then I was actually curious, like, how many crypto people actually do a Lamborghini?
Right.
Remember
all
like,
just chasing some unattainable dragon.
do you guys
Yeah,
remember all
Lambo
the like,
is the
Lambo
unicorn, bro.
musicians? All the like songs about like making riches in crypto. There were too many.
God. I mean, it is kind of crazy. I hope people will just settle for a gently used Honda Civic in this cycle. to be
Right.
honest.
You say that like a half joke, but that is basically the first thing that happened to me where, quote, I made it. People talk about Lambo all the time. After years of being in crypto, I got a new Toyota like hybrid, not a Lambo.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what we need. We need a practicality DAO, like a Prius DAO. Where it's like, guys, you own a Prius, we've verified it now. We have the VIN, you've reached the status. Let's just talk to each other like adults,
And I think we can do more. I talked about this with a few friends, including 60, but I'm seeing this become more popular, and I like it. We can do more degen type apps where on the back end, a lot of impact is made with a percentage of the revenue. I've seen people do that, and it's very interesting. It's doing quite well in the sense of like the degens get their playing around, but a lot of the revenue goes towards actually impactful causes and helping a lot of people.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
the one thing I do have to say is that I think 90% of crypto people would actually be rich if we weren't like addicted to gambling. Because the most money I've made in crypto, I put it back into crypto and watched it all
Oh yeah.
down. Like and I'm sure like there's a million other
And we need to
people
be more
like
transparent,
myself.
right? Yeah, and we need to be more transparent, right? Like we're saying now, it's okay to say, for example, what I'm about to say, that at the height of COVID, I saw my portfolio go way up, but I didn't take the money out when I should have, so I ended up with way less than it was at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the reality is like I feel like, I feel like that's not even just a human thing, right? I feel like that's not a crypto thing. That's a human thing, right? Like we're designed to overreach, and I feel like this is where I get philosophical with it as well, right? Like because we have so much that we want to accomplish in our traditional society, and it feels like crypto is not real. It feels like like Farmville. Like it just feels like yeah, fuck it. Like what is the deal? Um, and we think that this is this asymmetric vehicle to go from that gently used Honda Civic to that Lambo. Like you're just like, fuck it, bro. I'm gonna let this shit ride, and see what happens. And it's like, bro, you shouldn't have bought Dick Token. You should have stayed with Cock. Like
Right.
that was your vehicle for life changing money, right? Like, by the way, this is not an endorsement for Cock or Dick Token, But that being said, like I think that's one of those things where it's like you have these natural tendencies to wanna and to like lower the barriers for kind of like letting you have fun, and it's so easy to do it because it's just like 2 clicks or 3 clicks, maybe 100 if you're in a terrible chain and there's like 10,000 fucking UX problems. But like that being said, like it makes you want to overreach. It makes you want to do these things, and it's like if you don't have guardrails around like adults, basically at least somewhat being like, okay, guys, we can't just like fuck our lives up and everyone else's lives up. Let's kind of be adults and like let's do 90% degen shit and then 10% let it be like real tech and like real math, and then that way it becomes a vehicle
I
for
couldn't
like
agree more.
good.
Because
Yeah.
I think that'll happen. I was just talking about this recently too, and I wrote a little bit about it. I think there will actually be in the next few years things like DAOs of DAOs for purposes like that. All these industry players getting together like any industry does for something like industry standards, and people will start following them because like most of the big players are saying like I'm following them. Just basic rules of. It's not like regulations. It's more like basic rules of behavior, like you were saying.
Yeah, like don't be a bag of dicks. Like opt into the idea of like not being a D-bag, right? Like I mean Doge has this thing where it says like do good only every day, right? Like it's and I kind of like look at it and it's like in a weird way, it kind of like sets the ethos of like what you should do, right? Like
It's true.
wake up, like don't be a douchebag. Try and do at least one good thing today than more than you did yesterday. And if you happen to make a few shekels with it, that's great. You happen to lose some shekels with it, that's also okay because you maybe did the right thing, right? And I think that cultural fit around communities and tokens and chains can really be something that's like that North Star, Like you could just be like, dude, just, we all want to make money. But
No,
like,
no, you're
we don't
right.
want to fuck
Lead
each
with
other
vision.
over to like make money.
Lead with vision, and to be more specific, like you said, that vision can be pretty simple. Just something that a large subset of people can easily follow, just like they follow any of their favorite brands in the greater world. Why do they care about those brands? Because they need it to be a part of their life for some reason. Yeah, maybe sometimes it's just like, I need it to be a part of the life just because I like the clothes and they make me feel comfortable. But that's still a reason. That's still a sort of vision. Or think about vintage Apple, like it started at least that way, that Apple was like for the rebels and the creatives or something like that. We still need to draw from things like that. We still need to think like, what do people actually care about beyond the money? And that's why I love DAOs, because of the vision oriented nature of them and how they're collectively governed on that.
Yeah, being
Love
part
it.
of a DAO is way more fulfilling than being part of a meme coin community. I can attest to that.
Yeah, don't get us wrong. Like we have fun, like we said, with meme coins, but I would agree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
well,
better to wake up and build something, long lasting and not just, glorify another baby hippopotamus, whatever, for
But
are
you
you
can
not a
meme
big fan of Moodang, bro?
Oh, I love Medang.
awesome. But you can meme differently, like we were saying, like I was saying, you can, and I think that will become a paradigm with some people. You can both meme a community into existence with a meme coin, but also do a lot of good with that community as it grows. And making money, I want to double down on that because it's true. Making money and doing impactful things that help people don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Yeah, no, for sure.
100%.
Very cool. Well, guys, this has been awesome chatting with y'all. Really, always, Ian, love having you on. 60, great meeting you as well. So guys, before we wrap up, any just kind of parting thoughts or just things that you'd want to share with anyone that may be listening about either stuff that y'all are working on or just anything that we chatted about?
Dixie, go ahead first.
We have some, pretty cool Push DAO incubated apps coming in 2025. Super excited to get it in people's hands. So I won't spoil too much, but it's gonna be the first, not the first, but it's gonna be like a platform that is not like super crypto in your face. You don't need to have a wallet. All that gets abstracted away. All the Web3 stuff is pretty much abstracted away, and you would use it just like how you would use any other app. So that is just some offer. Super excited about that, and apart from that, just for the people listening, stay safe. It's a bull market, and the safest choice is usually the right choice. I know.
Yes.
Yeah, I know it's very tempting to buy something that will retire your bloodline, will give you generational wealth, but sometimes it's you getting more doing a 2x is more than fine enough. You can cover rent or groceries next. It's rather than chasing something and just ending up at zero. But I'll pass it on to Ian.
Yep. No, that's just a great point for me to start with too, because it's that important. Speaking of my decade in the space, like we mentioned on that subject that 60 just said, what I did was mostly with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Yes, we joked about other coins and stuff, and that's true. But if we think about, wait, Ian, how did you even get any money out of crypto? Mostly with just Bitcoin and Ethereum and waiting. Holding, hodl is often the best strategy. It's not financial advice, but it is what I did. And people should always be transparent when they've been around for a while in terms of positive examples for other people, not just join my community in 500x. But anyway, that's for starters. And second, to double down on what he said, the grants program is going to be more impactful than ever next year. Can't be more bullish. And the little piece I'll add to that is we're hyper specializing in what we call push apps on the push tech stack. You can imagine a lot of things based on our past conversations and other appearances I've done on what that means. But in general, it means anything that can benefit from real-time communication on chain can be a push app, and there's a lot of possibilities there. So AI will also be in the picture. For example, gaming, social, anything general communications, and anything we'd call the next generation of internet native apps, or just the next generation of things that are logically going to be on everyone's iPhone and Android phone. Couldn't be more bullish about push grants in that respect next year. A lot of wonderful people even already coming to us and soft committing before the actual applications happen. So that being said, follow us on Twitter at 60. What's the Push DAO Twitter? I almost forgot. Push_DAO. Yeah.
Yeah, Push_DAO.
I'm expat crypto 3, and I'll pass it back over to you for yours.
60_keys. Some idiot took 60 keys without the underscore, and he has one follower and has never posted anything. So I don't know if you guys.
That's me.
Right. That's so frustrating when that happens.
If you guys can help me, if you guys know anyone at X, that I know Elon is mad busy right now trying to cut 2 trillion of government spending, but I'd love to get what's rightfully mine. 60 or 60.
And 2 more shout outs, because I know devs listen to you guys and to this wonderful podcast. So if you're a dev, dive in at push.org. Our documentation is ridiculously comprehensive, and it'll make more sense what I'm saying about grants and everything else. Push.org. And then last but not least, because you guys are sort of Austin native, by nature, check out what Texas Tech University blockchain's doing. I'm advising the students over there. They're doing wonderful things, making a lot of progress.
Very cool. Well, this has been great, guys. Thanks again for joining. We look forward to having you back sometime soon. But with that, guys, we'll go ahead and end there. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the ATX DAO Podcast. If you like what you heard, please rate, subscribe, and share the podcast with your friends and colleagues. To learn more about ATX DAO, visit us at atxdao.com and follow us on X, Farcaster, and LinkedIn at ATX DAO. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you in the next episode.